Hi, I'm Joe Walensky, and I'm the program manager for the upcoming UX Writer Conference, which is going to be all online, totally virtual event. That's coming up June 9th and 10th. And one of the fun things I get to do is talk with the speakers that will be there for the event. And today I'm talking with Laurah Mwirichia. Hello, Laura. How are you doing today?
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, and I'm ensconced right now, still in the home-based situation. But I live on an island anyway, the Vashon Island in just near Seattle, Washington. Where are you talking to us from today?
I'm out here in New York City, so a lot going on out here. Not so much out in the streets, but I'm also working from a at-home situation and getting myself all set up here too.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad that's working out okay. What part of New York City do you live in, or if you want to share that, or where's your company located?
Yeah, I actually used to live in Brooklyn, but now I moved to Queens, and I love it. I highly advocate. I'm trying to get all my friends to move to Queens, so it's a work in progress. But my office at my last company was actually located just out of Union Square, right next to Union Square in Manhattan. And now the Square offices are also located in Manhattan, but obviously no one's going to those at the time being. So so just working from home.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm in. When things open up, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen because I've always been a big public transportation person. I'd always rather take the light rail or buses, and certainly every time I've been in New York, it's mainly been on the subway. So I don't know what that's going to be like when things finally do start to open up where you're at. It's going to be a
Yeah. I mean, I agree because I don't think I know anyone here that even owns a car. So it's going to have to be back to public transport, but I'm sure we'll find a way to, make it as safe as possible for everyone. I'm lucky. I actually ride my bike a lot. So worst comes to worst, I can just ride my bike across the bridge and get to work in half an hour. So.
All right, well, that sounds good. Yeah, I like doing the bike as well. So, let's talk a little bit about your what you have going on with your own career. So, what's your background and how did you find your way into the area that you're at now?
Yeah, like most writers in general, or even just UX writers in particular, I didn't necessarily start out from a background of English literature or anything like that. I actually studied biology in school, and when I left, I became a social worker for several years. So that went on for about 5 years, and then I decided I wanted to make the switch. Then kind of hopped on into working as a freelance writer, working in tech, and that's when I really started to discover UX writing and the importance of UX writing to companies. And at the time, it was still pretty small. I don't think there was a lot of conferences. There were barely any meetups. There was a bunch of meetups for UX design more often than UX writing. And so trying to get into that and learn as much as I could about it, while it was still new and small, and it still kind of is, but it's really, really taken off in the last, I would say, probably 3 to 4 years. So I spent some time as a freelance writer for a while, writing for different tech startups, and ended up getting a full-time job working at a tech startup called Aircall as a content marketing lead. And that's when I really got to get a deep dive into the product, because instead of freelancing with a bunch of different companies, I could really dig into one specific product. So I just kind of finagled my way into the product team and just kind of started showing them the importance of UX writing and how it can make a difference, how we communicate with our customers and our users really can make the difference between having someone that stays with your product and trusts it and someone that just leaves and churns. And this was, for me, beneficial from the marketing side, because obviously you're spending marketing dollars to get people to come on and onboard into your platform. If they just turn around and leave within a month or two or a year, because they're unhappy with the product or it's not meeting their needs, then it affects marketing as well, right? And so my value prop here was, listen, we need obviously marketing and sales to be great, but we need the in-product experience to really kind of hold on to our people. And that was like I said, my value prop to the product team. So that, kind of grew with that, and that was going really well. But my team didn't necessarily feel the need for a full-time product writer. And I was like, well, that's fair. Sometimes trying to get your case across is a bit difficult. UX writing is new. Startups are small. Maybe there's not a full need for that there. And that's when I decided to make the transition into a slightly larger company, and ended up at Square. And now working as a full-time product writer.
Well, but it sounds like you were being very proactive about driving forward, and he had a sense of the direction to go in, and so I mean that's pretty impressive. But I also think that that's something that it's a hard skill to learn, to be able to know how to come into a situation like that and be able to make the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough because you can't just go in all gung-ho and push for, your ideas. You really have to be able to sell someone on what the importance is of what you're advocating to them. Because, if you're a PM or you're a designer, you're not really going to care unless it really affects you and your metrics and your job. And so my role was to come in and say, listen, as a writer, I can help you be a better designer. Or as a writer, I can help you be not only a better PM, but get your products like launched faster, get them, have people really understand and interact with the product in a way that you really want. Another reason I think it was actually slightly easier for me is that our product was, all our designers were actually in France. Our company was based in Paris and New York. And so I already had to do a lot of like editing of content. And so this made it like easier to be in the product because you could really advocate for change.
Well, before we move on to this next part in your career where you're at right now, I'm just interested. So as you came through this early part of UX writing and now you're looking for the new opportunity, which ended up being at Square, what did you develop in terms of like a portfolio or what did you have available to share that took you to that next position?
Yeah, two things. One is a little bit of social capital. So I think one big part that I've always advocated for the people to also do in their careers is really speak up for yourself. Being on LinkedIn, starting a blog, demonstrating your thought leadership and saying like, listen, here's what I know and here's what I'm willing to share with you. And then also be willing to learn really gets other people on your side. So you have people constantly advocating for you, people saying, hey, I've worked with this person and, they're a good person to have. So instead of just like hoarding the knowledge and keeping it to yourself and hoping for the best, I'm a firm believer in the more you share, the more that's going to come back to you. And that's kind of like the first part of that. The second part is that you always have to keep learning. You can't just say, this is it. I've finished my program or finished a conference or a workshop and I'm ready to go. So you always have to keep iterating on your website and your portfolio and things like that, and making sure that you're just up to snuff with everyone else. In terms of a portfolio, I did have one. I don't really share it online because for me, a portfolio is something that you should be able to talk someone through. If they're just flipping through it and they're not really understanding what's happening, what your thought processes are, I don't think it's that useful. So, demonstrate your worth. And then once you're in front of the team, really be able to talk through your portfolio.
All right, great. Well, yeah, that's really good advice. I have a lot of students at classes I teach at the University of Washington, so I'm always looking for good tips to help them to be able to get into their first positions. Well, let's talk a little bit about where you're at now, what things are like at Square for you in UX writing.
Yeah, so for Square, I'm pretty new. I've only been here about 6 weeks now. So been still onboarding, learning a lot about the product, pretty big product. Obviously with the whole coronavirus thing going on, Square has been really impacted. We deal with small businesses, and clearly small businesses are really impacted by the shutdown. So, we've had to do a lot of work into how to message and how to position our message to our sellers. And so it's actually been a really, really good time to join because they've really been leaning on their writers and their product writers, in terms of how do we notify someone, how to get gift cards in their businesses or things like that, and all these other communications. So that's been a really like a great time to join, oddly enough. There's a lot of work.
How are things structured? Is there a team of people working on UX writing, or are you embedded with a certain part of the design and development structure?
Yeah, so in my team specifically, we just got a design team. So I work with 2 other designers and our lead designer, and that's my core team. And then across the aisle, I reach out to the 2 other product writers, and we have our own little mini writing team. Obviously, there's a bunch of other writers in the company, people who work in marketing and customer success who write, blogs and things like that, help articles. But then for me and the other 2 product writers, we try to sync up as much as possible. Right now, we're at a cadence of about every other week where we just spend an hour talking about all our different products, what's going on. And we all work on 3 completely different things, but we understand that no one writes the way we write, in terms of product. So we're able to just kind of get, feedback back and forth, talk on Slack, be like, hey, I hate this button. How can you, how would you have rephrased this or something like that? And it's been really a great way to work.
Well, and you just mentioned that as what you called yourself a product writer, that others may not know how to write in the way that the product writers are. So what are some of the characteristics or some of the things that kind of make up that category of writing that you do for your work?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is that you always have to understand your product as much as possible, understand the journey, because what you want to do is able to simplify that information as much as possible to someone. And on top of that, you have to be able to advocate for certain types of information depending on what is needed to get across. So sometimes you'll see someone has written something and you're just like, well, what exactly are we trying to tell the person here? What action are we trying to get them to take? Where do you want them to go? And sometimes I sit down with project managers and we'll look through a product together and, they'll say something like, what I really, we'll dig into it and then they'll finally be like, what I really want is like a long FAQ explaining everything to them. And then I'm like, okay, so what you need to do is create an FAQ and then we can write stuff in the product that can direct to that rather than trying to explain everything in like one very messy paragraph in the product that really ends up confusing someone even more and even frustrating them. So I found it to be a little bit of redirecting PMs and redirecting, other people that are stakeholders and helping them really think deeper into the product and what exactly they want people to do.
Well, it sounds like you've got a pretty good, progressive, exciting opportunity in your current position. So it's great to see that. And then, so thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with me about where you've been and how you got to where you're at today, and look forward to seeing you virtually at the conference in June.
Yes, I look forward to seeing everyone as well too.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, Laurah.
Thanks. Bye.